Y'all saw they put out last night, didn't it? By that morning. China said they don't start abiding by this coronavirus ban they got. They say they finna start executing them. I try to tell these people all the time. I see this stuff, I'm miles ahead of these people. They don't take long to tell you what they can do. Listen, it's called population control. They've done it for years, they'll do it again. They want to keep, listen, the wealthy are concerned about you guys taking up all of the wealth, absorbing up all the land. The only way to do that is population control. You gotta have disease, you gotta have war. That's just how they think. You gotta have poor people. That's how they balance themselves out. The middle class, you're a victim. Until our people ever become really conscious and look at our present-day situation, nothing gonna change for us. Anywhere you at, you're a victim. They need poor people. You're gonna keep poor people because poor people are cheap labor. Poor people you can experiment with. The rich and the wealthy are gonna fight each other because they only want so many people at the top of the chain. The middle class, you're a victim. They're wiping the middle. Who you think paying most of the debt? It's the middle class. Most of y'all, how many of y'all know? Listen, what hurt you and what hurt us is the fact that nobody's ever really sat down and talked to us intelligently so we can understand how these people work.
Again, fourth case, but internationally connected, related to an Egyptian cruise liner, and the person is between 65 and 75 years.
Both into realities. The first is universality. I'll come back to it. The second is integrating the agenda in every nation, their plannings and their institutions. The third is using the agenda as a comprehensive framework and these goals as interrelated tools to make it happen. The fourth is keeping careful track of progress. Let me say a few words about each of these points.
Provide information to people so that they will have it. So let me run through a few of these things, and I'll be followed by Dr. Peirce, then be followed by Chief Bunick over the Office of Emergency Management, and then Chief Pena and Chief Finner. Steve Williams, of course, is with the Public Health Department for these individuals. I certainly want to thank Councilmember Kubash for being here as well. Let me just kind of give you a status report. Houston has its fourth case now, and in the city of Houston, this is number 4. And again, this is a case that is related to an Egyptian cruise line. Okay, international travel on an Egyptian.
We are in the end accountable to the peoples in our countries and the peoples of the world. Now, I would like to highlight 4 factors, 4 guiding principles that can help make this happen.
And so for the city of Houston, that's number 4, which means that I think all of our cases have had some connection with travel. And I think it brings us up to the total number of cases in our region to 20. And so let me just stop and again remind people, international traveling right now is just not a good idea. In fact, just traveling, outside of the state right now is not a good idea. And so I've indicated to City of Houston employees, for example, all international traveling has been suspended until further notice, and all domestic travel must be approved by me before anyone leaves the.
Coronaviruses, some cause nothing more than a cold. COVID-19 is known as a novel coronavirus because until December, we'd only heard of 6 coronaviruses. COVID-19 is the 7th. It's new to us. It just had its gene sequencing. It just got its name. That's why it's novel. If you remember SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, or MERS, Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, those were coronaviruses. And they're both called respiratory syndromes because that's what coronaviruses do. They go for your lungs. Coronaviruses are zoonotic, which means that they transmit from animals to people. Some coronaviruses, like COVID-19, also transmit person to person.
Let me just say, with respect to testing, a number of us met earlier this morning at the Texas Medical Center. We do anticipate expanded testing to start next week in the city of Houston, and so we're ramping up to for that. And so that should start sometime next week. Even as now, we've been able to double our capacity for testing with the Houston public, the public labs, and Steve Williams can speak to that end. But we have doubled our capacity for testing internally, but we are anticipating expanding testing capabilities, working in collaboration with the Texas Medical Center on next week. As you know, the zoo is closing as of 7 p.m.
Politics of panic running rampant in the country. We're going to give you perspective and context and data and information.
So I've been working in global health for about 20 years, and my specific technical specialty is in health systems and what happens when health systems experience severe shocks. If we're ranking sources of global health expertise on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is some random person ranting on Facebook, and 10 is the World Health Organization, I'd say you can probably put me at like a 7 or an 8. So keep that in mind as I talk to you.
With the COVID-19 virus reaching more and more countries each day, it is possible that no corner of the world will be spared. Even as European health ministers prepare to meet on Friday, one infection was registered inside the European Council building itself. Not just towns and cities now, but the seats of governments and parliaments are in its path.
I'll start with the basics here, because I think that's gotten lost in some of the media noise around COVID-19.
But it's not the first time a disease of this nature has spread across the globe. It comes from a large family of viruses called...
We're gonna bring the meals to the seniors instead of having the seniors come to the multi-service center. That's at the seniors who normally go to Sunnyside, Northeast, and the Hiram Clark multi-service centers. We are also kind of streamlining some of our services, recreational services from Parks and Rec. We are continuing, though, any programs that involve children nutrition programs or where meals are provided. We're going to continue that through our Parks and Rec. We're not going to close those programs down. And then let me...
If we're going to do anything, we need his permission to do it. If we're going to travel or even leave the state, we got to have his permission to do it. So when you say lockdown, shutdown, or whatever you want to call it, nigga, that's still the same motherfucking thing, just reworded.
Let me also speak to this, because it's been on social media quite a bit, that the city is shutting down. Let me be very clear, the city is open for business, and all employees are expected to be at their respective posts.
The person ones travel faster and travel farther, just like COVID-19. Zoonotic illnesses are really hard to get rid of because they have an animal reservoir.
Makeshift tents to treat the sick, fighting for their lives and their dignity. One hospital reportedly receiving a new patient every 5 minutes. Experts warning Italy is still 2 weeks away from the outbreak's peak, as more than 60 million people are urged to stay at home.
Now for the less basic parts. This is not the last major outbreak we're ever going to see. There's going to be more outbreaks, and there's going to be more epidemics. That's not a maybe, that's a given. And it's a result of the way that we as human beings are interacting with our planet. Human choices are driving us into a position where we're going to see more outbreaks. But it's also about the way we're pushing into the last wild spaces on our planet.
Fires are ravaging Brazil and its Amazon rainforest, spilling out into Bolivia, Paraguay, and Peru.
It's the scale of these fires that's absolutely huge. An unprecedented burn of a massive magnitude. We could be losing, in certain areas, as much as 3 soccer fields of jungle every single minute.
The collection of tens of thousands of blazes engulfing an area 2/3 the size of the continental United States, fires burning from the equivalent of Detroit to Los Angeles.
When we burn and plow the Amazon rainforest so that we can have cheap land for ranching, when the last of the African bush gets converted to farms, when wild animals in China are hunted to extinction, human beings come into contact with wildlife populations that they've never come into contact with before, and those populations have new kinds of diseases.
Now, whether that's the reason or not, it happened though. feel me? And I'm just giving it to y'all like that. But y'all pay attention. I got other little clips I added on to it to make you even think and go against. So now, okay, it's not shut down. But if we're going to leave the state, we need his permission.